The weight of a moment. In the salt-scoured town of Salt Wind's End, where fog clung to the cobblestones like a shroud, lived a man named Ethan. His existence was a quiet testament to endurance, a life carved from the remnants of his father's ruin. Each dawn, he walked the skeletal docks, his hope a small, stubborn ember against the damp chill, seeking work that was seldom found. He carried the ghost of his father, a merchant who had gambled away their family's name on a single greedy venture. The memory was a brand on Ethan's soul, a vow of integrity he renewed with every hungry night. Honesty was the only inheritance his father had left him, and Ethan guarded it with a fierce, desperate piety. The townsfolk knew him. They saw the quiet dignity in his worn clothes, the unwavering clarity in his eyes. They saw a man who would return a dropped coin, who would share the last of his bread, who refused to bend beneath the weight of his misfortune. He was a landmark of principle in a town that had forgotten the meaning of the word. Far from the rot of Salt Wind's End, in a castle of sun-warmed stone, Lord Alistair surveyed his kingdom. He was a ruler in the twilight of his years, with no heir to inherit the peace he had painstakingly built. His court was a nest of vipers, their smiles as false as their flattery. He yearned for a successor whose heart was unburdened by power, whose character was forged in fire, not entitlement. "You are mad," his most trusted advisor, Gareth, had told him. "To walk among them as a beggar, you will be robbed or worse." Alistair had only smiled, a sad, knowing expression on his face. "A man's true nature is not revealed when he is facing a king," he'd said. "It is revealed when he believes no one of consequence is watching." One evening, as a vicious sea wind howled through the empty streets of Salt Wind's End, Ethan was heading for the cold comfort of his hut. The day had yielded nothing. The hunger gnawing at his stomach was a familiar ache, but the chill of despair was something new, something that settled deeper in his bones. It was then he heard it, a frail voice, nearly lost in the gale. He turned to see an old traveler, his back bent against the wind, standing beside a cart with a broken wheel. At the old man's feet sat 3 heavy, iron-bound chests. Rain was beginning to fall, soaking the thin fabric of the traveler's cloak. The old man's eyes, when they met Ethan's, held a strange, weary kindness. He asked if Ethan could help him carry the chests to the next village, a few miles distant. Ethan, seeing only a man in need, agreed without hesitation, asking for nothing more than a meal for his trouble. The traveler smiled. "I can do better. 3 silver coins for your labor." When Ethan bent to lift the first chest, its weight shocked him. It was far heavier than it looked, a dead, unyielding mass that strained the muscles in his back and arms. He grunted, settling the load on his shoulder, his boots sinking into the wet earth. "It is filled with copper," the old man explained softly, his voice steady against the wind. "Hard work, you see, always bears its own weight." Together, they set off down the muddy road, the traveler walking with a shuffle, his gaze lingering on Ethan with a cautious, measuring intensity. They walked in silence for a time, the only sounds, the squelch of mud and the howl of the wind. Ethan felt the old man's stare and wondered if he feared betrayal. The thought was a fleeting shadow, quickly dismissed. He was not his father. He worked with his hands, and that was enough. The path grew treacherous, narrowing to a slick ledge of rock overlooking the churning sea. Ethan moved with a slow, deliberate surety, his body aching, but his resolve firm. He would see this man and his cargo to safety. It was a promise, and his promises were all he had left. After what felt like an eternity, they reached the bank of a river, swollen and violent with the recent rains. It was a torrent of brown, churning water, impassable for a man as frail as the traveler. The bridge, a flimsy rope and plank affair, had been washed away, its remnants clinging to the opposite bank. The old man stared at the rushing water, a convincing terror in his eyes. "I cannot cross," he said, his voice trembling. "My strength is gone." He looked at Ethan, his gaze pleading. "Take the second chest across for me. It is a great burden, and I will pay you 3 gold coins for the risk." Ethan looked from the man to the river, then back again. Gold. The word echoed in the empty spaces of his stomach. He nodded, hefted the second chest, heavier than the first, and waded into the freezing, violent current. The water surged against him, trying to pull him under, but he braced himself and pushed forward. When he reached the shallows of the opposite shore, soaked and shivering, he turned back. The old man was a small, trembling figure in the deepening twilight, a shadow against the mist. "Come across," Ethan called out, his voice raw. "I will help you." The traveler only shook his head. "The last chest is heavier still," the old man shouted, his voice carried on the wind. "It holds jewels, a fortune. Take it and wait for me on the hill beyond the woods. I will find another way around and meet you at dawn." Jewels. The word was a spark in the tinder of his desperation. He stood on the bank, the cold seeping into his bones, and felt something shift inside him. A quiet, dark voice, one he hadn't heard since childhood, whispered in his mind. "He's old. He'll never make it. This is your chance." The voice grew louder, weaving a tapestry of his suffering. It showed him the scornful faces of the merchants, the gnawing hunger, the cold floor of his hut. It showed him his father's face, not in shame, but in a kind of ghostly encouragement. "One moment," the voice hissed, "can undo a lifetime of misery. What has honor ever given you?" He looked at the third chest, sitting alone on the other side of the river. He thought of the weight of the copper, the promise of the gold, the impossible fortune of the jewels. A lifetime of virtue felt thin and brittle compared to the solid, tangible promise of that chest. His integrity, once a fortress, now felt like a cage. And then he ran. He plunged back into the river, driven by a feverish greed that burned away all thought. He seized the third chest and scrambled back to the shore, not looking back. He ran through the woods, branches tearing at his face, the 3 chests banging against his body, his heart hammering a frantic, triumphant rhythm against his ribs. He burst through the door of his hut, slamming it shut against the storm and the world. He was breathless, soaked and trembling, not from cold, but from a terrifying, exhilarating hope. He had done it. He had seized his fate. With shaking hands, he threw open the latches. He tore open the first chest, then the second, then the third, his breath catching in his throat. There was no copper, no gold, no jewels, only smooth, gray, ordinary river stones, worthless and heavy. At the bottom of the final chest, nestled atop the stones, lay a single folded letter. His fingers trembled as he opened it. The script was elegant, regal. "To the man who carried my burdens," it read, "I am the ruler of this land, searching for a heart pure enough to inherit all I have built. Had you remained faithful for one moment longer, you would have been that man. But you ran, not from me, but from yourself." The letter fell from his grasp. The sound of the storm faded, replaced by a deafening silence in his soul. For a lifetime of honor, he had been offered a kingdom. For a moment of greed, he had chosen stones. Outside, the waves crashed against the shore in a relentless, unforgiving rhythm, and Ethan understood, too late, that the heaviest burdens are not the ones we carry for others, but the ones we create for ourselves. The